Alright gang, we need something to give us a little more time to prep for Chapter 5's release and to use a way to introduce the metaverse. So, what do you guys got? Oh, okay, I got an idea. What if we do a month-long season purely devoted to the storyline? After all, we're going to a new era of Fortnite with the metaverse, which will allow us to give some time where the lore is needed, and also we're going to a time where the lore will be more convoluted than ever, and has more working parts. So, how about we purely devote a month-long period to a storyline-based season where pro players and casuals alike can play in harmony, have good balanced loot pools, have no bots, siphon as well, split loot pools, and we listen to the community's wants and also... Wait. Say that again. The whole thing, or... No, the thing about the players. We could listen to the community and what they want? Brilliant! Everyone's been wanting OG again, so let's just do Chapter 1, but again! But sir, don't you believe that's a little counterintuitive? I mean, aren't there more pressing matters? Get him out of my office. OG Fortnite is an experimental concept, let's not beat around the bush on that front. The idea of recycling content in the manner of an entire chapter is semi-risky to say the least, and could easily backfire or could be a massive success. And to many people it was a success, and to me in some regards it was as well. But I also hate the idea of people having fun and enjoying something that I don't enjoy as much. Yeah, that's right, I have gripes with the season. What are you gonna do? Click away? No, please, I was just, joking. Partially. Anyways, let's talk about Fortnite OG, the beginning of the end. The season began on December 2nd, 2023, and lasted 30 days. For the map iteration of Chapter 1 that we began with, we start with what appears to be the Season 5 iteration of Chapter 1's map. And we started with a stupid, strong base loot pool that would add many weapons from multiple different Chapter 1 seasons, past and future at that point. But for the season review, I'm not going to be going down the usual routine of recapping every update and every little change, due to how odd the season is in nature. Rather, I want to take a different approach in the manner that I'm more so going to be giving my thoughts on the season, so let's just begin with that. Here's how this segment is going to work. My good buddy ZeroBR and I came together for this segment to break down our opinions on the season. I'm on the side that this is not a great season, and Zero's on the side that he thinks this season is solid. So I'll let Zero lead with why he thinks this season is good, and I'll follow up with my take.
What's good, Pojo? What's good, everybody watching? Here is my thoughts on OG, my favorite season. And yeah, I wrote some stuff down, so enjoy, listen up. I think OG was the best season in Fortnite's history, at least for me personally. From the loot pool to the fun gameplay, here's everything that made it awesome. Alright, first let's talk about the loot pool. It was simple and what we expected for the most part. And sure, the gun models were changed a bit. Yeah, the pump, was it just the pump and the rocket launcher? I don't know. There were certain things that weren't exactly OG, but they functioned well. They functioned great, just like OG. It really did feel OG, and none of the weapons were actually bad for the game. This leads me into another point. The game was OG. It had a good grasp on the seasons it tried to replicate. It was like playing the seasons all again. Now, one could say that just because it feels OG doesn't mean it's actually good. And if you say that, I have a comeback. You're wrong. All right, all jokes aside, you're not necessarily wrong, but listen. The reason Chapter 1 works, both Chapter 1 and the remake, is because it's dynamic. The map had clear parts, it had clear separations, and when you played your game, you wrote a story. I talked about this a lot in some of my old videos, but basically it just means that the map had a lot of separation, the POIs were different, and it all felt very different, and you knew when you were crossing into Shifty Shaft or Dusty. Obviously, you know when you go into new POI, but let me be real, do y'all really keep track of which hill you're on or how close you are to a POI now? I know I don't. Running through a POI or even making it out of a hot drop were all pivotal moments in the story of your game. Also, OG worked because of its graphics. It worked perfectly with the rest of the map's dynamicness, and all the while it remained beautiful. Looking through Dusty on some empty hills, whatever you saw, it was Fortnite. Another thing that made Fortnite was the storyline and how everything was built on it. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but yeah, everything was built on the storyline. It felt like it was going with the storyline, and the storyline itself was great. All right, it was great. All right, finally, the last aspect of OG I'm gonna talk about here is its theme. All right, every season had its own theme, and while the recent ones like Chapter 5, for example, have had themes. I mean, the Greek mythology theme, Marvel, the other. Listen, it was clear, like, okay, this season is this. Like, you don't forget that season 2 was Greek mythology. I mean, you might, but that was what it was. All right? It was very in your face what the theme was, but it's different because the OG ones were very basic, and because of how the other aspects, the map dynamicness, the storyline, and a few more I'll get into, how they all intertwined, it made these themes kind of feel like Fortnite's. Even though, you know, Christmas and the winter holidays are very universal, people that don't play Fortnite will know what Christmas is, it still felt like Fortnite's Christmas. Does that make sense? Like, it felt like Fortnite's winter. They made it feel like their own because of how the other aspects intertwined. I hope this kind of makes sense. All right, but moving forward past all of this, the OG remake season, all right, it worked because it had at least some of these aspects. It had a decent amount, more than most of the usual seasons. It was dynamic, right? The map itself was literally a Chapter 1 map, so it got that in the bag. Relatively OG graphics, they kind of worked. It wasn't exactly OG, but it was still, it felt OG, at least to me. It was kind of basically themed. I know it was like a season about being a season rather than like a season being about winter or something like that, but it still had its own theme, and the theme itself was kind of just OG, I guess. And it was kind of basic, kind of, and not really a story, to be honest, but at least we had hope for a story. So it still lacked in certain things, but a lot of OG aspects it had. All right, so I left one more aspect out. This one's pretty important, and it really is needed for all of Fortnite. The way Fortnite is represented in content is super important, all right? Anytime it's not good, and anytime any of these aspects are not good, this season is worse. Literally, if you put every aspect that made OG, a lot of which I talked about here, into the game just good. That's just how it be. I mean, you see it time and time again with some of the best seasons, right? If y'all enjoyed Season 4 of Chapter 5 more than the rest of Chapter 5, well, it did kind of have a basic theme. I mean, it wasn't that basic, but the map was kind of dynamic. I mean, listen, we didn't usually have a freaking castle. That was kind of dynamic. You see the castle, you know you're going to Doom. Pivotal moment in the story of your game. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, if it's in the game, if these aspects are in the game is good. Simple as that. It needs to also be represented in content well. I'm gonna leave it at that. See you guys later. Have a great day. Peace out. Keep getting gooder.
Thank you, Zero, for breaking down that side of the story, but now I'm going to play on the other side here and maybe explain some personal flaws I found in the season. These flaws aren't stated as the objectively right perspective, these are just my takes, so please don't take them to heart. But starting off here, my first gripe is with the fact that this season isn't original. Yes, the concept of recycling a few seasons might not be original, but that's just the problem. It's recycling previous seasons, we're replaying the same events over and over again, and it lacks originality in that regard, as well as the fact that the loot pool doesn't bring anything new to the table, rather just reintroduced weapons that we've already experienced before. I'm not saying you need insane changes every season, but what I am saying is that I feel like we need something to really spice it up, or something to be completely revamped about the season in order to justify its existence. My next gripe is the fact that they barely added aspects from some seasons. Think about this. What were some underrepresented seasons? Off the dome, I'm just going to go Season 8 and 9, come to mind, for me anyways. Some of the best seasons in that chapter barely got any representation, and I think those two are some of the best seasons in that chapter. But they got pretty sidelined, which is kind of detrimental to a season that's sole purpose is to kind of unite, every single Chapter 1 season together. My next problem is that the season is super predictable. Any Joe can look up anything about Chapter 1 seasons and see what will most likely happen next, and due to that they might not be super interested for what's to come. So they decide to take a week break from the season, or maybe break from the entire season, making some people who may not be interested in rehashing ideas not that interested anymore, because they don't want to play the same thing they've already experienced before or seen before. They don't really care for that. They want new things and to be able to not expect what comes up next. But other than those components, those are really my only complaints I have. I know there's the arguments of, oh, they don't have the OG weapon models, but that argument in my opinion isn't really worth discussing here. And to the people who are complaining about the implementation of the newer movement in OG, I don't think you understand how OG worked back then. This movement is necessary for this game in this season to survive. And this is coming from a day one player. Without this movement, I have the feeling backlash for the season would have been even worse yet. While yes, this season has flaws, this season also has many good and strong attributes to pull from as well. And quite frankly, it was pretty good in my opinion for what it was and what it could be. But that's the thing. I think it was strong for what it could be. To me, the concept itself holds the season back, and in the end, I'm sorry, but I can't give it anything more than, I don't know, a 5 out of 10. And that's me being generous. I understand why people like the season, but personally, it's just not for me. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks again to ZeroBR for coming onto the video. I really appreciate it, man. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a lovely night.